Hello, welcome to another episode of the Space Cats Happy Hour podcast. You can find us on Spotify and iTunes and also YouTube. All of our back library is on YouTube now, which is great. Other places where you can find podcasts as well. This is going to be a video episode, and you can watch our video episodes on Spotify. We're going to have some fun visual elements. We're going to do some homemade oracle card reading, and the theme we're going to talk about is you are safe. But also, I am Zadikat, aka Sun Portal, and I'm here with my co-host DreadPirateKK.
DreadPirateKK is in the house. Yeah. Thank you for that lovely intro. You always do such a good job with the
Thank
whole
you.
introducing the podcast. I'm like, blah. Glad you're in charge.
And what else was I going to say? My mind went completely blank. But anyway, you're here with us now, and
It's 1:11.
Oh, that's great.
It's
That's
1:11.
New beginnings. What I was going to say was we just tried to attempted to record this as a live on TikTok, but then it turns out that in order to do multi-people lives, you have to have like done a certain amount of lives or whatever. So it was very interesting little experience of me like trying to let KK in, and this was like wasn't possible, and then me being very flustered because people actually joined the live and were like little virtual eyeballs on me, which is always my favorite thing.
Yeah, your second line loves that one.
Exactly. But I was gonna say that no, I can say that. Okay, so why is this called You Are Safe to start with? This is going to be interesting to you because on that actual topic, I think we're going to be ad hocing it a lot, whereas I personally try to prefer to prepare a little of what I'm going to say. But this came to me back in the summer. And I remember, I think I left you an audio note saying, like, I think we have to record a podcast called You Are Safe. And then you said this feels like an October, November deal. Like that's when it's supposed to come out. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Cut to now, where the main thing that I'm just going to say to start is that it's all just a little bit of history repeating. Like all of the news stories right now are just like
2020
like
all over again.
2020 or 2016 like loop repeats.
Yeah.
Like just like really close repeating stories, which I find very interesting. And for me, the level of closeness of the election stories and like the whole like P. Diddy versus Epstein, like all of that stuff is so close. I for me, it just feels like really big nudges to people who are like on the cusp of having that breakthrough of like, oh, reality is not what I thought it was, and it's actually completely different, and we are just like in a big lucid dream, like creating stories as we go. And this isn't, because it just like it gets so cartoonishly exaggerated. And that had me thinking back to the real jumping point that opened my mind fully to the possibility of like reality being this wild multi-dimensional experience where you're creating it as you go, literally, and it's like mirroring back to you your internal experience quite literally. And that was at the end of my dark night of the soul. It was so much stuff related to the Epstein that it just became, for me, I was going down all these rabbit holes of like everything was connected to the CIA, and all like movies were being funded by the CIA, and you could trace that, like you could see, oh, this parent company is like affiliated with this and that, and like everything was connected. And it was just getting to a point of such bizarre like a just seeming like a fictional story with these weird puppet master type players, that
Yep.
it just really stopped feeling like something that was like, whoa, there's a big A, capital letter A in the cloud right now. It
Really,
just stopped
there's so
feeling
there's
like,
so many syncs right now. What you're saying, I am so excited to, yeah, keep going.
it just stopped feeling like what I thought of reality before, which was like, oh, it's just these elements of like chance and chaos and all of these different things, and like people, you know, experiencing things. Well, I'm not expressing this coherently at all, but it just got to a point with that story that was so outlandish, where I could easily, and within 2 minutes, like, you didn't have to be this crazy investigative journalist. Within 2 minutes, I could go online and easily, effortlessly trace almost anything back to the CIA. Where it was like too many things were connected, and that opened my brain. And then I went through the summer of every single scary thought I had immediately manifested in like an outlandish way for about 3 to 4 months straight, culminating with my mom going into the hospital. And then I came across the Synchronicity podcast and then Jess Reed's podcast within the same week. And it was like, okay. And that's what blew my brain wide open.
That was awesome. Oh my God. Also, if you want to hear that story, go listen to AKA The Great Awakening episode,
Yes.
which is in the library somewhere.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know why I felt like I had to re-say it again, just if people are experiencing that now, that exact same thing, but with P. Diddy, where everything is like, it's like the purpose of this is not, it's like the opposite of, it feels like the purpose of this is to be like, oh my God, things are so bad, and like powerful people are so powerful, and like, how can we do anything about them? But it's really just to show you some kind of levels of connectivity between things, to the point where your brain goes, hey, this is more like a story than actual like anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because I am now in that loop where, or not loop, but like I'm coming across those stories where everything connects to the CIA, because I finally found a person who's reporting on these conspiracy theories things in a way that I resonate with, because he just prepares all these presentations and has all these notes and like public documents, and he just backs up his work. So when I listen to his videos or watch his videos or read his tweets or, you know, whatever, it's like, I know he's cutting through the noise for me. And I finally found my like history teacher. That's how I'm like referring to him in my head, because I'm like, this is our real history. And he'll just go through it and be very, he's like really grounded. Okay, I should say his name. His name is Ian Carroll. And he started off on TikTok, I think with like a shampoo TikTok, where he was like researching, you know, which ones were actually family owned or which one was owned by BlackRock and blah, and like all. So he went like, he does his rabbit holes really, really well. And he's really grounded, and he really is like very like, what am I saying? It's just what I wanted a history class to be. It's like he's cutting through the bullshit and showing you like actual receipts. And so again, it all comes back to the CIA. And he has a really cool video on YouTube, actually. And on YouTube, he's called Cancel This Conspiracy. But on Twitter, he's called Cancel Clo Co or something, because he started off as Cancel This Clothing Company or some shit. I don't know. Anyway, trying to give people a way to like cut through some of this noise. And he feels like a fellow pirate to me. I think that's why I resonate with his energy. So anyway, yeah, he's got all these videos. The one on YouTube that I'm thinking of specifically is called The Original Deep State or something. And it talks about the East India Trading Company and how they like were basically doing all these like drug smuggling things, and that basically sort of led into the CIA and like Project Paperclip and all the things that were happening. And I'm getting a lot more clarity on that too, because like it's not that I never suspected that that was not the case, you know, like the CIA or the NSA, you know, all the three-letter agencies or whatever. I knew, you know, these things, but like watching it like a history class for me has been really like eye-opening. And yes, he goes into Epstein, he goes into P. Diddy, he does all the things. And so it's very, very, it's just a really grounded way. And he's also just like, he's this former liberal, like very like Seattle kind of you know, that type of energy. And he's like, listen, man, we're beyond politics at this point. We're talking about shadow governments. Like, we need to just all be on the same side, because if we're not team, he doesn't say it this way, but it's basically, that's why I like it. He's like, it's team humanity. Like, we're on the same side, people. So it's a really nice way to kind of cut through some of the noise for me. So that was just an interesting, you're talking about these stories looping back, and I'm like, yep, that's me right now.
Well, it's interesting because when I went through it back in 2019, 2019, there was like, we hadn't gotten to this explosion in metaphysical discourse that we are at now. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, the people where this is going to help unlock stuff for them are also have had now several years of exposure to a lot of that spiritual metaphysical discourse about like being in whatever, yeah, like a simulation or multidimensional reality or whatever version resonates with people. And they've also gone through like the weirdness of the pandemic, the early pandemic, which was like reality was like doing so many weird glitchy things
So wild.
that I think really opened people up. So I feel like it's like, it's going to be a bit of a different experience for that wave. But it's interesting. It's interesting because the P. Diddy stuff, it's like, I think because the Epstein stuff was just like my like jumping off point, because I've really taken a step back from following the news. But this story keeps like sucking me in, and I'm like, but this is, and it's like, I'm like, this is just a tool. This story is just a way for us to realize that reality isn't like this fixed thing, that it's very fluid, and that it's a manifestation of our collective internal stories about what's real. So we are, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. I forget if I've already talked about this on the pod, but whatever. So the phrase that came to me about the matrix is whatever structures, external structures are in place inside society that we would refer to as the matrix. That's just it's like, essentially it's our collective ego. So it exists to try to impose some kind of structure on a completely fluid, open reality. And so, and it also serves, in order to impose that structure, it has to convince us that that structure is inherent and not like fluid and malleable, just like our egos, right? Like that's why our egos are always, they're just trying to be like, no, this is what's real, and we have to hang on to that, because and it'll send like, it's dangerous not to hang on to that. It's total chaos, it's insanity, it's mad, whatever it's telling us, so that we won't go through that ego death, which can at times be very necessary, like for us to not completely spiral out and not be able to cope and function.
Spiritual
but that's just like for me, a really helpful way of seeing the matrix. It's very neutral. It's just like, it exists to put some kind of structure onto our fluid reality, and it creates these big boogeymen, threshold guardians, so that we keep buying into that structure and believing that structure. So for that journey for me, it was just like everything tying back to this one central, it was like too much power concentrated in small groups. It was just a story that was becoming more and more cartoonish,
Yes, cartoonish. Yes, perfect word.
But it's like, so that it's funny because on the one hand, that story can either, depending on how you look at it, it can really scare you, and you can be like, oh, I'm learning that everything funnels back into these like small groups of power, and they just always have ways of maintaining their power. And how do we have any power over that? And then but if you look at it from the other perspective, where you're like, oh, this is clearly a story, then it flips everything open, and you're like, this is a story, and I am the most powerful being in my personal reality. So it loses its power,
Yep.
not
Yep.
necessarily instantly, but gradually over time.
Yeah, I can feel the energy just being sucked out of those old stories really rapidly. I mean, I felt it for a while now, um, but it really does feel like cardboard. Just like there's no juice in that stuff. I mean, there is for some people. I mean, it exists because it still, is a reality for a bunch of people. But it's shifting so rapidly, and it's
Yeah.
awesome, but it's a lot.
And that's also why, like, you've been for a few years now, you've been hearing a lot about like decolonizing your mind. Um, but you decolonize your mind, and then you just find yourself with a different matrix that your new
Yep.
story that you've decided to tell, which is fine. But
Yeah.
it's like it's basically being able to be present in your life and engage with it while
Yes.
maintaining that meta view that everything, it's ultimately a story. So it's like, what story do you want to participate in and put your attention and energy towards, and like,
Yeah.
see more of?
Yeah, just curating the algorithm for sure. And that's one of the reasons, like, I'm always just going down rabbit holes, like my little 5-1 self. I love the one line goes down rabbit holes. And so I'll get on a theme of things I really want to learn about. And then some of that was more into the people reporting on conspiracy theories, whatever. And I just for a while, and it was juicy for a while for me. Like I needed some of that information. I needed some of it to like kind of open up some blockages and whatever I needed that. But then the energy behind a lot of that stuff was more like, oh, it doesn't feel good to be in this energy because the people who are creating this content are just constantly looking for the darkness, the conspiracy, oh, can you believe that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I can believe it. Okay, I've gotten my little taste of like what you guys think is happening here, but I want to see the things that are actually changing. It was kind of like, I felt like a lot of those videos and those content creators were like, and no judgment on them. It was like, that's what they need to be doing right now. And so good for them because they're waking people up and whatever. But for me, I was like, I need to move on from the story where it's just kind of like churning. It feels kind of like you're digging a deeper hole, which is fine, but I don't want to do that anymore. I want to see like the sunlight and like all the changes that are happening. And so I would start focusing. I had to unfollow a bunch of people because I had gotten what I needed from them. And
Yeah.
then like, I want to create this reality that's actually fun. So I want to like focus on doing stuff with you and like, whatever my next step is in this grand plan for me to do this community here, which is kind of weirdly like the doors are kind of opening. I'm getting a glimmer of like I haven't even told you this eclipse season has like really, actually I should say that it's October the 2nd right now, which is the
Oh,
day
I
of
always forget to
the
say.
second. Yeah, this is the second eclipse of the season. We had one on the 17th of September, which was in Pisces. It was a lunar eclipse. And now we're in a solar eclipse, which is in Libra, which is also where the South Node is right now. So we're flushing we're really flushing out old stuff right now, and I can feel it. And so I kind of forget where I was going with that. Focusing on the good, like the positive stuff. So like as I'm getting more details about like I got this broad overall idea of like, okay, I'm creating community here. Okay, what does it mean? And then it kind of gradually over the couple of years that I've been here is like narrowing it down a little bit. Like, oh, here's a couple more details about how you're going to do that. But I still am just like, wait, how the fuck am I going to, it's just like really big overall ideas right now. And so the more I can feel us moving into more of the details of bringing the plan and the dreams, or making a plan to bring the dreams into reality, which is what this next nodal axis is going to be, Pisces and Virgo. But we can get into that later. I'm going to stop.
No, I want to go back to that.
Okay.
Maybe just keep talking about the astrological stuff for
Okay.
right now. I'm just going to put a pin and say I want to go back to something about this current news cycle that I also
Okay.
think is interesting about what's happening with it afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. I also want to talk about the A that you saw in the clouds. So they're putting a pin in a couple of other things, which I mean, it actually just, okay, we'll talk about the astrology. So since July of 2023, the nodes, which the nodes are just a mathematical point in the sky astrologically. It's not like a planet or asteroid or anything. It's like where the sun's orbit meets the moon's orbit. So they're always in opposite signs.
Oh,
And it's
that's
just
so
like a
helpful. I've
pure
never known what the nodes
yeah,
were.
yeah, it's really cool. And it's really just like, because it's not a planet, I don't know. I was reading about that. Like, I'm obsessed with the nodes because, like, in my own astrology, my sun is conjunct my south node. So, like, of course, I'm going to identify with the nodal energies and like find out what about all of them. So, it's not everyone's bag, but it is mine. And so that's, I know a lot about them. And so it's like a concentrated version of that energy. It's like the rest of the stuff in astrology is like it's a planet or like it's a house in your chart or whatever. And so there's always those energies of the planet and the house kind of filtered through, you know, like which house is it in, like this and that. It's kind of just filtered. But when it comes to the nodes, it's like it's just pure energy of that energy archetype, basically. So like right now they're in Aries and Libra. The north node is in Aries, the south node is in Libra. And whenever you hear the name Judith Hill, she's an astrologer, she's hilarious. I actually met her at Norwalk a couple years ago. I really loved her. And it was one of those, like, I was trying not to fangirl because I was like, oh my God. Anyway, she calls the south node the great anus of the zodiac. So this always helps people keep in mind what the nodes actually do. And in Vedic astrology, they're known as the dragon's head, which is the north node, which is the fresh, like you're drinking in that juice of that north node, the dragon head, and the dragon tail, the south node, is where it poops out all of the stuff that we don't, that has been stuck in our system, basically. And it's all around that pure energy of Libra and Aries. And so right now, the south node is conjunct really. I mean, it's all in, like, we have this huge Libra stellium right now, and it's like major Libra energy flushing out. So it's Libra is like, you know, balance, relating to people, relating to selves, relating to like, how do we relate to our dreams, our own life, our food, our like our sexual lives? Like, how do you relate to everything in your life? Because Aries is the self, Libra is the other. And that's kind of like a, you know, generic kind of thing to say, but all so many relationship rebalancing right now. Like people were already kind of breaking up and like rearranging and this and that, like for the last few years, but right now it is like specifically concentrated, and so many people are getting together with new partners and new friends, and you know, it's not just romantic, it's like it's, you know, everything. And there's a lot, I've been feeling a lot of rage in the energy right now, where it's kind of like Libra can sort of be treated like, it's very people pleasing energy. Libra can be, and these are all the shadow sides of it. And that's why the south node flushes out those shadowy things that we've kind of been holding on to that we didn't know about, or like have we kind of buried and stuff. So any of those people pleasing tendencies that we all have, it's been highlighted majorly. And it the rage that I've been feeling is kind of like that divine feminine sort of like fear based rage. And I think because it's kind of started with Shelley Duvall's death, like we always talk about how, you know, celebrity deaths always mean things, and hers really felt like a divine feminine, dark feminine, like fear kind of thing, kind of closing out its cycle and being like, no, this, the idea of justice, which is also Libra, the idea of justice that we've been like clinging onto for dear life, like, oh, our systems are, you know, incorruptible because it's supposed to be the justices and the judges and everything, like the court systems are supposed to, you know, have our back and this kind of thing. And it's been crumbling. Like we are not getting justice. Like every single fucking industry and like everything is based on lies, and you know, it's just inverted. And again, there is no judgment here on that because we wanted to experience it. So like, I'm beyond the point where I get angry about the inverted matrix, you know, whatever. But if you're in that currently, that's why we're mad. Well, that's why the rage is like, well, excuse me, why are these systems in place? So, and we're kind of drinking in that fresh Aries energy where it's like, you can't tell me who I am. Like the other person outside of me, no one else outside of me can tell me who I am. And so this eclipse cycle. It's a lot of overlapping energies, and like Pluto is also back in Capricorn for the last time before it goes into Aquarius for good for 20 years. But right now, from September through November 22nd or something,
Yeah.
it's back in Capricorn, which is bringing up all those old everything we've been experiencing basically since 2008, which is when Pluto went into Capricorn. So Pluto takes a long fucking time to go through a sign. So like financial shit is going wonky. We're switching to a new system, but it's, back and forth. We're all, people are trying to hold on to the old systems and all that stuff. But also all the old fears. Pluto is very like deep corruption, fear, it's good stuff too, but like, that's, it excavates whatever sign that it's in or what, whatever. So Capricorn is like this, the bigger, the societal agreements about like what government is and like the economy and like a bigger sort of building out the foundations of society. We're excavating our ideas of what a good foundation for a society is, and we've been doing that since 2008. So that's why we see all these changes, because we've been asking for something better and we're moving into that. But it feels very unsafe because the old structures, Pluto and Capricorn, are fucking crumbling. And so it's a very concentrated period of time with like the nodal stuff, like the Aries Libra. We had like the Pisces, like there's a whole lot of overlapping energies, and it's just bringing up a lot of shit, and it's getting cartoonish. It's like this is the time period where it's supposed to be cartoonishly bad or painful or whatever. So it really squeezes out, and you're like, wait, why am I afraid of this? Or why do I act like this? Or why am I in this relationship? Anyway, that's kind of, I don't know if I touched on everything, but that'll be good enough for now, I guess.
Well, no, I was just going to say that does circle back to the thing I was going to say about
Okay.
the Diddy stuff, which is what some people have been talking about, which is like the crumbling of celebrity, where we put people, we put a lot of our own power into these external people, and we give them all of this anyway. But and that is like these things now that are like crumbling, which also often seems connected to the Shelley Duvall aspect of like it's like the seed that crumbles them is the rage over like sexual injustice and exploitation and oppression and violence and things like that. So yeah, it's just really interesting that for example, this isn't, I'm not like invested in people having downfalls or celebrities have or whatever. Like I'm not like I get or anything like that. But what I was noticing is interesting right now is that there's a very strong narrative around Beyonce's affiliation with Diddy, which is really interesting because the position that she's held archetypally for people was like so significant and coming from a different place that I think that's going to have a lot of like people are starting to unfollow her on social media and stuff in like large numbers. And emotionally that is going to, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of grief when it comes to, because we want to be like, oh well, yes, of course we won't give our power away to the bad celebrities anymore, but we still get to have our good, like quote unquote good celebrities. And then it's like it's just showing like the whole thing is just crumbling. Like it's just it's not where the future is at.
So a lot of the astrologers, oh sorry, go ahead.
Just a lot of like loss
absolutely
coming up, which also brings me to another, my spleen's going off, I don't know.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, well, you say what you were going to say.
Well, I was just going to say that the astrologers who are talking about the Diddy stuff or whatever, they're also looking at Jay-Z's chart, and it's like he's next. So Beyonce coming up is very. I haven't noticed much around her. Like she's not in my news really awareness, but for some reason Jay-Z was. So it's interesting that she's also, people are coming. And that's like, that's the thing, you know, that's what this Pluto back into Capricorn thing, it's sort of like that personal power, because it is like Capricorn and Pluto, it's like the power dynamics and like giving your power away to outside authority, because like Capricorn is like, you know, the government, or, you know, it represents things like that, those bigger institutions that we kind of like trust, or like even celebrity culture, yeah, all these things that are, you know, crumbling. And so this, it's gonna get,
Billionaires,
yeah, yes, exactly, the people that run society,
super wealthy,
yeah,
people with political or like CIA type, that type power, and like
absolutely,
all these things that we've created in our narrative of like holding all of this charisma and power and stuff, and now we're like, oh, that's just like deep at the
reflection,
subconscious level. It just, we always know, we were like, wait, that's not true, so it's like it's crumbling.
yeah, for sure. And it's just going to get more and more to the point where that's like, I wasn't dreading Pluto going back into Capricorn for these 2 months, like September through November or whatever, because I was like, oh, this is going to be the time when, like, you know, superpowers awaken for the people who've done all this other work and don't have their energy invested in the government, you know, whatever. And it's going to be bad, like getting worse and worse and worse for the people who do still identify with those old systems and those old ways of being. That's who it's going to be really bad for, in a way that's like world shattering, I guess. And you can take that in a good way or a bad way, but it'll feel kind of like, wait, what? Like this, everything I put my identity into or like invested, you know, this is how life is. And it's just all, I forget what I was going to say about that. Shit, there was something, but anyway, I might have lost, might be in the weeds here. Kind of like repeating myself. We could move on. Shit.
Well, I was just gonna say, with our nervous system, so okay,
Oh yeah. Okay. Moving on.
so what I feel, so it's interesting that this idea of to do a podcast called You Are Safe um came to me back in the summer, uh and I was also at a point in my journey where I was like, okay, I've been hitting my head against the wall for X many number of years now in terms of my own internal sense of safety. I mean, I really feel like fear was fear and like beep beep offshoots of fear, like doubt and
Anxiety.
anxiety
God.
and like, yeah, those that's what I incarnated this time to like really deal with the most,
Same.
um more so necessarily than like anger or maybe shame or stuff, those two.
Yeah.
It's not that I
I
haven't
have a lot of shame.
been
Yeah.
hit by those, but um it's really the fear that has been like so prevalent throughout my life. So anyway, I just was really still hitting a wall and stuff, and then I heard about this new nervous system based therapy that uses sound, and it's called the Safe and Sound protocol. So it even has safe in the name, and I've been going through it and I've been seeing the changes. It's it's 5 hours total, and you do them accompanied, like you listen to music that has been specifically engineered. It's regular music, but it's been engineered, and you listen to it, but you listen to it in the presence of the therapist. For me, it's over Zoom. Um, and so you're accompanied and you do it in little increments. It's 5 hours total. So I've been doing it like little half-hour sessions where we get through small chunks of it and stuff. And I'm seeing starting to finally see the results in my nervous system.
Awesome.
And what that feels like for me is that there's a current wave of people who've gone through the whatever awakening expansion journey and are like finally getting to a point where we're anchoring in. Like there was a wave before us that have anchored in a certain level of this internal sense of safety that then allowed they were able to talk to us and help us know that it would like be coming and help us figure out ways to find it for ourselves. And now I feel like we're getting to the point where we are anchoring that in, and then a new wave of people comes. But in terms of the nervous system and everything to do with what we're currently calling neurodivergence and things like being on the autism spectrum or ADHD, which is like now so prevalent. So many more people are realizing that that applies to them. And how that relates to safety. Is what's been coming through to me is that one aspect of being neurodivergent or having your energy grid work in this way, I always say we're like built for the future.
Yeah.
People who are built for the future and who are already like kind of anchored into the future. And so it's very, very, very sensitive to stimulus and to other people's emotions and to the collective emotions and to all forms of energetic stimulus, because part of what this collective evolution that we're going through as a species is we are shifting away from super polarized emotions, super intense emotions. And that also has to do, like, the more you become consciously aware and the more external reality it's like, that's not what affects you or guides you. It's like your own internal reality that guides and shapes your life. The less polarized and extreme your experiences just naturally become as a result of that. But we're very, especially people who've incarnated a lot as humans, we're very accustomed to experiencing a really intense and polarized emotions, and we're very like attached to it. And so it was just when we were talking about like grief and loss, it was reminding me that we're like, there's part of us that's sad because we have all of our stories that are so fun for us to experience too, like our in culture and things are about like these really, you go to the depths of darkness and then you triumph and things like that. And it's like
hero's journey.
Exactly. Thank you. And we're shifting away from that. We're shifting into something which I think has already been experienced at times by,
I think so too. Yeah.
various versions of humanity. But we're, especially like right now, Western culture is very entrenched in that. And so there's a sadness there. I always like to just like keep that in mind, that like there's another reason beyond just the effects of trauma, blah, 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 but just there's like an attachment to that because we like it, because it's like we're that's what we're used to. And we're still having trouble, many of us are still having trouble conceiving of like, okay, so how is the new, what is the new thing and how is that fun? Like, how is that as fun and exciting or whatever, which it is, but it's just like such a different shift. And so that's why so many of us had to incarnate with this extreme sensitivity to stimulus, to the point where we literally cannot function in the current mode, is because otherwise we're just, we're like,
Doing the same thing.
we keep
Yeah.
trying because we're like, no, this is, you know, I'm used to this. I'm attracted to it in this kind of magnetic way. I got to keep going. And so that's why there's so many of us like this, is to like help those old ways crumble.
Mhm.
And I was just I was watching a video by a metaphysical person, Christina Lopes channel, and she was talking about this new energy that's on the planet. She calls it this amplifier energy that's like amplifying everything right now that's going on. And what I thought of when she was saying that, I was like, okay, that's people who weren't already at the point that many neurodivergent people are at. They're probably also neurodivergent as well, but they hadn't hit that point. This amplifier energy is to like expand it so that so that means people burning out, right? Like that's how that's perceived. So that also doesn't feel safe. And I think that's also why this message is so important, of like, you are safe, is like, this is all part of the process. And I went through a very big burnout during my spiritual journey, which did not feel,
that fucking sucked.
It wasn't amplifying feelings of safety in me.
Nope.
But it was all part of this process of like deconditioning and things like that. So anyway, that just made me think like, that's also part of the stew that's happening right now. We've got this amplifier energy. It's meant to be there. It's meant to help people unhook from whatever the systems are that are just they're just dying.
They're just dying. Yeah. And we came here to bring in the future. Yeah. So it's like an evolution, you know, it's like, I don't know. Well, it actually kind of brings me to what I wanted to say about your seeing the A in the clouds. Oh, do you have a thing you want to say before I do that?
Okay, I'll just say it because I think it's going to go away.
For sure.
So I was thinking about, okay, so first of all, there's also like, a lot of us who have been reconnecting with our multidimensionality, in the fact that we're like experiencing time non-linearly, so we can, you know, we have psychic abilities, we have dreams that predict the future, or we can see what's coming down the pipe, we can intuitively feel into timelines and things like that. We have a history of experiencing those from, again, a place that maybe you're like, oh, well, that's so expanded, that's like, it's a conscious, but again, it had its own matrix built into it, where it was about learning karmic lessons, and there was a lot of polarity and density, and we're shifting out of that. So that old part of us, I was hearing somebody talking about letting, like, she'd been working with Cassandra, who's in the mythology, like, was cursed by Apollo to have her predictions, her true predictions, ignored by everybody, but there were always these doom and gloom predictions about things. And so a lot of us are holding that archetypal story and energy as well, and have memories of that, and like and in our own lives are have a story of being able to see into a really dense timeline, and then like know that it's coming for you, but from this older perspective where you couldn't do anything about it because you were playing out karmic loops and stuff, where we're shifting away from that. So the density of experiences is going to also shift. And so that ability to forecast gloom and doom is actually, it's now forecasting things that are illusions, because they no longer have to, like, if you break the karmic cycle, you don't have to play that out anymore. You don't have to go down that avenue. It's really tricky to talk about this, because then it does immediately bring a lot of shame for people. They're like, well, I'm still in this and I'm still, why are
Yeah.
that's, I'll try not to get too diverted and talk about that, but that's not like the fact that we're breaking out of this, and however long it takes, and it was just this process of evolution. And there are like, we may have areas in our life where we did still want to complete some kind of karmic, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
none of it matters, none of it's better than the else, we're just shifting away. But it's allowing that Cassandra part, that's what I've been on lately too, is allowing that Cassandra element to just let go of it and die. And like, it's like this creates this kind of illusory sense of safety, because you're like, well, I know the bad thing that's coming,
Yeah, good point.
like that whole thing, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's like letting go of that is really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay, so that was one chunk.
Mm-hmm.
So, and part of letting go of that is not being swayed when you do have it's like the gravitational pull of it is loosening on you. So if you do have an experience where you're like, well, I knew that bad thing would happen, and then it did, just like I knew. So actually my Cassandra prophecies are just as accurate as ever. And like, instead of that, it's like having that connection to the part of you that remembers, like, no, this is a journey. It doesn't matter that happened this time. That doesn't mean it's happening every time. In fact, it's happening less and less and less. That I didn't realize how central that was until my journey, until recently, because I was like, that was literally my thing. That was like every dark thought I had came through, and that's what helped me break through, to know that reality wasn't real, but it was very Cassandra.
That's very dark. Yeah. Yeah.
It was like very much like, I was like, yes, good to know the powers of my fears are like so strong and rapid. And that's what I've been deconditioning in a very slow way over the past, well, slow. That's a real judgment to put it on its college, but over the past 5 years, which is felt to my little body, like excruciating and interminable, is like learning, like, nope, that's not actually the case. And anyway, I don't think I said that super.
No, that was actually amazing, because it kind of gave me something to add on to that, which is because I remember thinking when you dropped that in the group chat and I was listening to you talk about the Cassandra thing, which as you talked about it now, it kind of hit even deeper. So I'm glad I'm hearing this again, because I was like, it triggered for me remembering the dreams that I was having about like the Atlantis, and like my voice, like I said what was going to happen, they didn't listen, whatever. And so I was like, oh, I also have some of that Cassandra stuff, but it didn't feel like my main thing. It was sort of like it was an experience or whatever, but like it wasn't a part of my identity that felt like super duper me. I don't know. It's hard to describe. But anyway, what I'm realizing now, and I have been, because this is the eclipse, this Libra eclipse is really like, it's really hitting me. And it's also at a square to Pluto in Capricorn. It's very much like squeezing out. It's like constructive tension. It's like removing the pebble from your shoe so you can keep walking, like that kind of shit. And so I could feel the version of me dying that was basically me up until now. I mean, it's been slowly dying, like parts of it, whatever. But like, it feels like the root, like the me that was here up until now is like totally gone. But it requires me. This is what I was saying when I was like, I wasn't dreading Pluto going back into Capricorn, because I thought it was really going to only affect, like the people who were still involved in the government or whatever. And then I was like, oh, I spoke a little too soon, because it also applies to me, which it always does. I always think like, oh, maybe I'll escape it this time. Okay, whatever. But my version of myself that's really dying is the one that has given all of my power away to authority figures like my mom or my boss, or like work in general. I don't know how to really pinpoint what that means, because I don't want to like say, oh, it's the part of me that's tied into capitalism, because I don't think it's really that. It like is that also, but it's not. But it's like my power goes to like what I'm experiencing at work right now. I work at the library, and it's just like it's been so unpalatable almost since I started. Not really, I'm being a little bit dramatic because it's kind of bad right now, but it's like I knew I kept getting messages about like the reason I'm working at the library is not only the energetic stuff, like the light codes, like bringing the death to the old system, like helping other people eat their energetic trash. Like I know all of that shit is going on, but for me, it was for me to continue to not to continue, but to like learn how to do whatever I want, not give a fuck in the face of like management that really makes me fucking terrified. It's like the scary dragon or whatever. And I know it's tied into things that I've experienced with my mom because like she was my original quote unquote boss, or like this is just how I'm kind of processing things. I don't know if it makes sense or not, but it makes sense to me. So like I have not been able to do that at the library. I still feel like I'm like terrified of doing anything wrong. I feel like everything I do is wrong. Like I'm gonna get fired. It's crazy. It's like I can see the observer me is like, why do you feel like this? I don't understand because it makes no sense, but it's the feeling, the big emotions in my body that are like trying to get out. And like I don't know, I'm still kind of working on this, but the version of me that has to like just do whatever the fuck I want and not really care what outside authority is, that's the like the fear and the guilt and the shame are really like, oh boy. And so this eclipse, this Libra eclipse, a couple days ago, this happened. So obviously a little bit before the eclipse, but the energies are always here. I had a major trigger moment with my mom, and I knew what was happening while it was happening. Like it was one of those things where there was a lot of miscommunication because it's also kind of felt like Mercury retrograde, even though it's not. Like last week felt this way, this week kind of feels that way, not to, but anyway, so it kind of was down to like a lip, not like she was going through stuff that she hadn't told me about. I was doing some things that I hadn't told her about. Anyway, the result of that was like a repeat of things that had happened all throughout my childhood, like growing up, the old version of me that's like terrified of my mom, all, you know, whatever, major childhood wounds just coming back around. And what happened this time was I was like, oh, she's really upset. Like I had none of that toxic empathy that I had. Like I could feel the ghosts of it. I could feel the like the knee-jerk reaction to be like to feel fear and like guilt and shame and like, oh, I've let her down, like all this stuff. And she was blowing up my phone and this and that. And then she wouldn't talk to me after I tried to call her back. And like, and so, but moving through it, I was like, holy shit, this experience, even though it's not exactly pleasant, it was like, it was incredible the amount of growth that I got to see in myself
That's
facing my original big scary dragon. And it was like, you can do this with the original scary dragon. You just like beat it basically. And now it's just a small, shadowy, you know, watered down version of that at work. Like, of course you're capable of being that person, that new version of you that's like doesn't give your power to authority and like blah, whatever. I don't know. I'm kind of also not explaining this very well, but it's like a different, it's like sort of aligned with yours, but like yours is Cassandra, mine is whatever the fuck this is, you know. And so I think we're, because we have some overlap, obviously, especially with the fear and all that stuff, but like mine, like a ton of shame. I have like fear, anxiety, and shame are like big shit. So it's just really interesting how the old version of self really feels like it's dying, because at the Pisces eclipse 2 weeks ago on September 17th of this year, I had a rebirth day. It felt like I was real. I know I've talked about like rebirth days before, and I'm still counting all those as valid, but like this one felt like the real deal where I was literally coming out of I don't know where, like I unearthed some crazy big pieces of me that felt like a new person. And I was like, now this eclipse is showing me that old person that I was has to die so that I can be this new person. And I already am that person. It's just like allowing myself to like be in that suit, like that new avatar, and feel how real it is, which it's an adjustment period. It's an integration period. And I know that in the next few months, even like I feel this huge shift coming at the end of February, beginning of March, something around that area. So I know it's all, which kind of ties into another thing I want to talk about, but I want to stop here in case you have anything actually to say. Give you a word in edgewise.
Um, I just when you were talking about the shame part, it made me realize I feel like because I've been going through something. For me, it's the things I've been going through have to do with the children's book that I wrote, and I'm finally putting it out in the world. And like just encountering the same walls in myself where there were a lot of things with my spiritual awakening or even different aspects of my life where it kind of connects back to the Cassandra thing, because I just kind of like could envision it going well, and so then it would like with my energy work, like I was just not difficult for me to be like, yep, this is gonna like really work and help this person, and then it would. But then when it comes to promoting the book, like I just keep hitting this Cassandra wall again and again of like,
oh yeah,
you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail, and it's not gonna lead to anything, and you're gonna fail. And
wow,
when you were talking about the shame, I was like, there is a lot of shame for me, but it's for me, the shame feels so connected to the fear, like it feels like a version of the fear.
that's interesting. I
Like
resonate with that a lot.
like so anyway, and it's like just so many nudges to just move on from attaching to those negative outcomes that I perceive, believing in them, but also it's like simultaneously there's been a whole journey around failure. Like the whole thing of this year is like failure and success have the exact same energy. It's like this neutrality thing around failure. It's like, and just in and of itself, not because failure you learn things from failure or it brings you this or that, or just literally it doesn't matter. Like the experience of failure is just another experience, and as consciousness we like to have all kinds of different experiences. So just on that fundamental level, it's like trying to increase neutrality. But I've been really squeezed. I continue to be squeezed. I'm having this launch event finally in November, and like I have this review of the book coming out, which is really my energy is like 100%, because
that's coming up soon, right?
Well, it's supposed to already be out already, but like they haven't released the issue, their October issue yet, which is very unusual for them. So it's anyways, it's like
it's a thing. Yep.
So anyway, that whole journey, what was I going to say about the Cassandra? Oh, so when I was talking, so part of it is that, and this will actually lead into this oracle card. I don't think I'm going to get into a lot of oracle cards, but I'm going to get into this one book. So part of the Cassandra thing and feeling a deeper sense of peace and acceptance when your Cassandra prediction does come true, and then you do experience the thing you were scared of, and it is like whatever dark, dense, heavy experience, maybe it's destructive, whatever, is also knowing that those experiences are okay too, and they're fine. And that now I know I just talked about like literally failure in and of itself as an experience is completely fine and good and valuable and inherently exactly equal to success, even if it doesn't feel that way emotionally. It's just like in the cosmic zoom out, totally perfect, lovable, divine experience. But we are also in this phase where there's like a cushiony landing to things. So it's like that's also part of, again, like I'm saying with the letting go of the Cassandra, it's like moving out of the karmic, so that if you're having that experience, there's a big cushiony landing. Because the Cassandra thing was like when we were going in a descension, right? It was helping us go into that descension. It was a kind of an energy that amplified fear. And contributed to it, right? And so it was very necessary to go in further into that quote unquote descension that we wanted to experience. And now, in order to go into the ascension, we also have to have the experience of like big cushiony landings to things and things. So anyway,
Yeah, what do we
this
got?
book. Okay, so there was a few children's books. I went to my partner Mike's place, his mom's place, and she had these old books from his childhood, and they were hilarious because it was like, the story was like, oh, so and so was so worried he was late for somebody's birthday, and the whole book is about him worried he's late, he gets there, he's actually a day early. So it was like, they were all like, just don't worry. It was like literally like, just don't worry, everything's fine, you're fine. It was all very like, you know, karma is ebbing away. Then there was, what were all of them? They were all just the same thing. It was like somebody was like afraid of something and then it turned out perfect. So this is oh yeah, there was Miss Mop's lucky day. She's like taking her pies through the forest to go sell them, and there's all these rain clouds threatening, and there's all these animals coming out that are going to like pounce and like want to steal her pies. And then right at the last minute, she's like, oh, I forgot my umbrella. Runs home, and like the rain comes down pouring. And then when she gets to her bakery, like, oh yeah, and then all the animals that were going to try to get her pies like crash into each other. And so like cute. Because she turned around, they were all charging at her, but they all crashed into each other. So she makes it hazed, and they're all waiting in line at her bakery. So it's like a big triumph, and she just, oh my God,
that's amazing.
Okay, so this is for the collective. Those are for the collective too, but this is so for the collective. The Very Bumpy Bus Ride. This is about okay.
That's what it feels like.
It's like the bus is going along, people are going to the county fair, they're all bringing it. Somebody's bringing apples, there's strawberries, all their things that they're bringing to the county fair. And then the geese join. It's like the bus keeps getting more and more crowded, everyone's piling on. It's a very bumpy ride. The ground, they're like, oh gosh, this is bumpy. They join the apple cart, the truck, to the back of the bus, because the truck breaks down with the apples in it. Oh, we'll tow you, it's fine. So now they're towing this thing. It's getting even bumpier. All these farm animals come in, a big cow, turkey, goat, pig. Boy, this is a very noisy, jumpy, crowded bus ride, says Granny. Then they have to go up this big hill, big steep hill. And they can't make it because there's so many people on and they're towing the thing. So, oh, we can't make it. Well, how will we get to the fair? And then the cow says, I'll pull. And everybody else says, okay, you'll pull, we'll push. And the geese are like, we'll honk, we'll let everybody know it's coming. Oh. They all work together collectively, pushing it up the big hill. Yay, they got it to the top of the hill. Oh no, catastrophe. It starts rolling down the hill all by itself.
Shit.
Huge crash. Crash, bang, plunk, plop. The bus crashes into a post right outside the county fair. And they're like, oh no, there's strawberries and cream and apples all over the bus.
Oh no.
But then the judges come out to see what happened. One judge wipes some strawberries off the bus. Delicious strawberry jam, first prize.
It's amazing.
And then, this is the best whipped cream I ever tasted, first prize. And the apples turn into applesauce, first prize. Everybody wins
first prize.
And it was all because of the Very Bumpy Bus Ride. Okay.
Oh my God.
So this is for your inner Cassandra, about working together as a collective, going through things as a collective, not yours. I mean, whoever's listening's inner Cassandra, my own included. And oh no, we fucked, like we were working, we tried to do something. Oh no, catastrophe, it's all fine. It's all, this is This is the big "you are safe"
That's awesome.
message coming
That is
through.
awesome.
Yes. I
Hell
had one more
yeah.
thing, but you say your thing about the letter A.
Okay, so I just watched, if anyone follows the Quantum Businessman on YouTube, he's one of the people that has helped a lot with my awakening. And he has very well organized like playlists on his YouTube where you can it's amazing. Anyway, I just watched his live stream that he did on the April 8th solar eclipse, the one that was in Aries. And I saw Matthias DeStefano talking about this too. It created, so the one that happened in, this is all the over North America, so very American centric, but it does affect like the collective. So the one in 2017 that went across, and then the one in, there was like 3 eclipses. I can't remember, but anyway, the April 8th one was sort of the final third line in the making of this glyph known as Aleph, which is the letter A. And I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. Some people were saying a leaf, whatever, Aleph, whatever. And basically, it was, so because I watched this, like, it was obviously in my awareness because I was supposed to talk about it today. So it's basically symbolizing a return to Christ consciousness, but in the level of the collective. So it's going to be like it's like the birth of a new chapter really started happening during that April 8th eclipse. And it was like meant to show all the darkness, so which is a year of clarity, 2024, like a lot of shit's coming to the surface to look at. And I've heard that 2025 is going to be the year of forgiveness, but I don't really know. We're going to see how it goes. But it was the woman, it was hard for me to listen to the video because I know how this is going to sound, but I didn't like the sound of her voice. It just was very grating on my nerves, which, so I know I am wounding around even saying that because I've heard so many men say like, she's so shrill, or, talking about women in general. And I'm like, fuck, but her voice, I really was good. But anyway, her information was very good. And it was resonating in a way that I always take things with a grain of salt. So like passing on this message to anyone, but use your own judgment. She was like, we basically started in 2017, the first of 12 7-year cycles. And so 2024 is the ending of that first 7-year cycle. It started in 2017. And that's our journey back into Christ consciousness. And she's like, by the time we hit the 6th cycle, so that I think whatever, 30, whatever, however many years that is from now, but like from 2017, that's going to be when all of our stuff comes online, like telekinesis and the blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's not like we're waiting the whole 12 7-year cycle thing to like be magically a new person or whatever, but that's what's like, our bodies are going through the DNA upgrades and like everything that's happening sort of like in a way that's like causing, or not causing it, but it's like the burnout that we're feeling is our DNA coming online. And like I just watched a video on, there's another person I want to shout out here to follow in case anybody wants to, because her name is JK Ultra on I almost said Amazon. What the fuck is it? Instagram. She's also on YouTube. Anyway, I've been watching a lot of her videos, and she just did a video on dimensions. And she was talking about how it's like, so far it's a 4-part series. It's very, very good. And the first part, whatever, I don't know. She was talking about the 4th part, the video number 4 that came out a couple days ago or whatever. She was showing like what wave forms are and like music and the mathematical whatever, it's stuff that I like comprehend because I am a musician, but also I'm like, do what? But as she was talking about all the different waveforms and how it can correspond to the dimensions, because you can have like overtones and undertones, and it's not just the note, it's like this and that, and you can exist, you as the note exist in all these dimensions. And she's like, look, it looks a lot like DNA, and you can see that like as you go up to the 12th tone of whatever she was talking about. I'm not doing a very good job describing this, but she's like, it kind of clicked for me. I was like, oh, we're unlocking our dimensional DNA, but it's like music. It's like it's our own frequencies and stuff like that. And so it was just a really cool, I guess I should just say go. I'm going to make a lot of, I feel like I'm going to give, I don't know who's going to be posting this video, but like I want to give links in the show notes for some of these things because like I'm not very describing this very well. So anyway, the letter A in the clouds is really feeling like even more of a strong message about like we're coming online with these new bodies, and like we're moving to crystalline and plasma and all the everything else, because we were carbon based, and like the journey, the collective journey into Christ consciousness is, it's like it's already done, sort of. Not, we haven't experienced it being done, but like that's the timeline we're on. So future us has already gotten there. And so the messages from our future selves, our higher selves, however you want to call it, it's like, you are safe. You are literally on the highest timeline. Everything that's happening is like, it's like the death process. And that also means that some people will choose to exit their bodies, or animals, or like whatever, but that's not the end of the game for them. So like, even as you're seeing a lot of death, maybe, I don't know, like whatever happens, it's
Oh, yeah.
not going to be, you are safe. Like, you are literally on the highest timeline, that you're on the party bus. Here we go. And then there was something else I wanted to say about that, but I think I might take a pause just in case you have stuff.
No, that's just, that's really helpful to hear about the death as well, because that's been coming through for me. But I think I've been getting the squeeze again around my own personal stuff around death. So it's been so it's been hard for me to like filter out and get messages to come through really clearly that aren't like affected by my own fear and stuff. But that kind of stuff has been coming through, that like, yeah, like physical death. It's even if you're seeing lots of death, it's not like a bad.
Yeah, it's
thing.
really not. Because I think people want a chance to kind of incarnate again, to experience this new chapter. So they've done what they needed to do karmically for their souls. Now they're exiting their physical bodies here, so they can have this fresh start with like coming in with all their memories and like, you know, all that. So I saw that Maggie Smith died and Chris Christopherson died, and Chris Christopherson was 88. Like, talk about message. I mean, like, you know, so there's a lot of cycle completions, like, because everyone's posting Maggie Smith's, you know, she's been in so many things, like she fucking icon, love this woman. But a lot of people were posting her in Harry Potter, which really felt like a magical upgrade, you know, because like obviously she's known for more than just that, but like those were coincidentally the photos that people kept sharing. And so it just felt like a really magical awesomeness. And it just makes me think of like another one of the "you are safe" things, in case, but I'll pause in case, did you have anything you wanted to say to that?
No,
Because
keep
think I'm
going.
supposed to pass on just one more message. But anyway, I was watching another YouTube video, but this was a few months ago. I follow a woman called Pam Gregory on YouTube. She's this old, she's an old lady. She's British. She's an astrologer. She's very cheerful and soft and gentle. And she talks about astrology in ways that I don't think you have to be an astrology expert to know, because she's like very good at putting things in plain English. She's like a grandmother who sits on her little couch and it's all sunshine. And she's like, let me tell you about Pluto and the last degrees of Aquarius, or whatever or cover. She's very sweet. Anyway, that being said, she was a guest on a podcast. So it's in her feed. She posted the link to the YouTube video, but she was being interviewed by a woman who channels angels. So she knows nothing about astrology, but they were comparing notes. So it's a very good video to watch, because it's a cool way to like show how channeled information and astrology, it's not like they're the same, they're kind of the same thing, because it's all just like tapping into the same energies that are happening. And so it's just like a different language you speak, whether it's like math or music or channels from angels or astrology. It's like all really cool shit. And you can see how it matches up. So it's a really fun thing. But they were talking about the shift and this like grand flash that's going to happen, and like stuff that I've been hearing about, but don't really quite. Whenever people talk about the grand flash, I've been thinking, I was like, at first I thought it might be a solar flare. And then I was like, I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe more Christ consciousness kind of like blooming or flashing through all of us, like in an online, you know, like coming online kind of way. I just haven't been able to like figure out what it actually is that feels like it resonates. And I don't think we're supposed to know necessarily, because listening to this video, they were talking about this flash that's supposed to be happening and everyone hears about it, but nobody knows. And they're like, the woman who channels angels, I wish I could remember her name. It's kind of embarrassing. But anyway, she was saying that the angels told her that it's like whenever this happens, which Pam Gregory seemed to think was going to be in the next year. And this video was from June of this year. So like it really feels like, I feel like something's happening in March of next year, but we're going to just let it happen the way it happens. And that's just whatever. So they were talking about this flash, and it was like the angels said that you're not going to miss it. Like it's going to be so obvious. You could be in your basement underground 12 stories, you're still going to know what is happening. So it's not like, what am I going to miss the flash? No, you're not going to miss the flash. This is according to the angels. And that it's like after the flash happens, that it's going to be very obvious that that's when everything changes. Like we're going to be like, oh, like historically, we're going to look back and be like, this is when, you know, all of these things happen. So who knows what it actually is, but it's not a scary thing. It's like they talk about these things in order to like prepare us. So it's like, it's not where we're not supposed to be in fear around this. It's just like, oh, these things are happening. Kind of prepare your nervous system and it's okay.
Yeah.
You are safe. Like all these messages about you are safe. And so it's after this flash happens, the angels were showing this woman like her own neighborhood. And she saw that some of the houses were dark, but like some of the houses had lights on, but it wasn't like people were gone. It was just like the lawns were mowed, you know, like it wasn't like abandoned craziness. It was like that's how the angels were seeing humanity after this flash. So like some people have this Christ consciousness already online. Some people maybe are still in the dark where they need to do another little round of stuff, but it's not like they're not invited on the party bus. They can come on anytime, and it's going to be very obvious. Everybody who is doing this new shit, like future technologies coming in, all the things that we're building out, it's going to be very obvious, and they're going to want to be a part of that if they aren't already. And there is no like gatekeeping here. It's like everybody. So if you're worried about like your mom or your, you know, fucking friend or whoever you're worried about, like they're not going to make it because they're, you know, still in low vibrations, whatever, they're going to make it. If they want to do it, that's fine. Like nobody's not invited. So again, more just like you are safe messages, and like, yeah, watch Pam Gregory's videos because she's adorable and I love her.
Um, the the other thing that connects to the you are safe with the Cassandra stuff is with this book
Oh yeah, let's.
is it's like maybe you'll get a like I've been watching a show lately where like it was like there were like Cassandra like prophecies, but like the person was interpreting them in one way, but actually the the like the way the words didn't actually mean that. You could interpret them in a different way that was like actually very positive. So it's like mixed
Okay.
signals coming from the intuition, where you're like they're trying to send you a message about something positive happening, but you're only seeing this part of it that feels really scary.
That makes
um
sense.
and that how that connects to this book, because I like kind of rushed through this book, but because I was just all like a big funny face in the clouds right now again. But it's like a big froggy face, very Orion
Ooh,
light energy,
I was
I
just going to
think.
talk about Orion, but next. Okay.
But in this book, so we have so much fear about trying to work together collectively and come together and achieve some kind of positive outcome. We have so much baggage around that. And what's interesting about the story is it's like, oh no, the chaos and calamity and destruction, and then ends up being what brings the good thing, you know. So I think there's that aspect of the Cassandra too, and the you are safe, where it's like, and the big cushiony thing where it's like keeping in mind that if something like that happens, where it's like, oh no, it's like, and we're like, not more destruction or more this or that or like more chaos, like that's the last thing we need, and it's like, oh no, that was actually the thing that got us to whatever.
I love it. Yes.
Feeling a
Awesome.
little intense of what as I'm talking
Yeah.
about this. It was interesting
Yeah.
because I was like, I couldn't tell, and I still honestly can't. when I was talking to you about like what is the you are safe message, and like if it's like a situation where we kind of are gradually gently easing into things collectively, and we're just not really fully able to like accept like, oh, we're actually starting to see positive change now. Can my nervous system rest? It doesn't want to rest.
Yeah.
Or it might be just a mix of both happening.
Mhm.
Like something where it's like, oh well, we all tried to make this thing happen, and then oh no, chaos, and like instead we got this crazy scary chaos thing. It's like, don't
Mhm.
worry, that's still
Yeah. Working out for the
leading
best.
leading to like a really good ultimate outcome.
Yeah. I really feel that there's just been so many messages this year that everything is okay, and I do still throw my tantrums because it feels sometimes I lose hope, or whatever. It's cycles, it's fine, like whatever, I can throw my tantrums, and that's, I feel like you should be throwing tantrums because you got to get these emotions out. But that's just me, I'm biased because I love my tantrums. But anyway, I've been getting messages also around like underdog stuff, like particularly in America, we love the underdog story. I mean, kind of humanity in general, but like I feel like Hollywood is just full of, underdog stories. And I so this is a plug for Snoop Dogg's movie on Amazon Prime. It's called Underdogs with 2 G's, of course, because we're Snoop Dogg. And it is such a good movie. It is like so I've watched it, I don't even know, a million times, because that's how my autism shows up. I just watch things over and over and over. And it just, the last time I watched it, I was like, oh my God, this is humanity. Like literally the underdog story. Because obviously, yeah, I'm not going to spoil the movie, but like it's just so good. I can't watch stressful, like, sad, dramatic things anymore. So like anything I recommend is going to be a fun thing to watch. So anyway, there are these underdogs, and it's just like, that's what it feels like the story of humanity is going to be ultimately, where like we have been subjected to some real tough shit, like real unfair shit, all the things that you can think of, like fighting them, the they that is here, and like the Matrix and all that stuff. And these are things that we're going to realize eventually and accept, whatever, that we created for ourselves in order to get this spiritual growth. And it's really awesome, even though it feels really bad right now. But anyway, once we get perspective on that, it's going to be fine. So our ultimate story is going to just be like, look at how amazing we did not give up. Like we just kept going, and like I don't know, it just watch the movie Underdogs. It's just a really fun fucking movie, and it just has, when I was in one of my tantrums where I was feeling so fucking low, and I was like, this is never gonna work, like what do I mean, I don't feel safe, like all the stuff that was just kind of coming up, and I watched this movie again and I was like, oh, that's our story, we're fine, like it's okay. So just feeling that when I was watching the movie, it was kind of like, just say that some more out loud, because it's gonna be okay. It already is okay, but like we're gonna be in some really cool, like whatever disasters happen or whatever the bus crash thing is, it's gonna be, we're gonna try the jam on the bus and be like, this is first prize, we're amazing.
Yeah,
This feels like that.
I've been having, I think because you started talking about the solar eclipse in April, I've been having this some kind of blockage is working itself out of my chest up through my throat ever since. It's been, I think everything you've been saying has just been really helpful. Specifically for me, that eclipse, when we're talking about my journey with like fear and everything I've been going through this year with like success and failure, that eclipse was very triggering for me.
It was rough.
Because just the eclipse itself, like it anyway, it was very interesting, because leading up to it, I kind of wasn't really tuned into it, and I wasn't really thinking, I had this feeling like I just wasn't tuned into it as like a celestial event to pay attention to.
Interesting.
And then right before, I was like, oh wait, like everyone's getting so excited about this, like I was like, I want to experience this. And then I got that feeling, which is often associated with that time of year with me, with my spiritual journey, because there's been so many things with that time of year where it's like, okay, a big jump is happening, and then I'll be like, oh, it didn't happen for me, like internal.
Yes. Oh my God.
And like it,
Same.
and so when the day of the eclipse came, I had this big constriction, and um and then suddenly, like, it was supposed to be a nice day, and then suddenly it was overcast.
Yeah.
And so when the eclipse actually happened, we like kind of saw it, but it was like very overcast where we were. So I didn't actually get, and then afterwards, like at the tail, not the tail end, but just a little bit afterwards, like the clouds parted, I was able to see some of it. But it was like a very like, it was that kind of experience for me, for my internal Cassandra, about like, it was like a real womp womp that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really like, and it was a big, it was part of this year, what this year has been, with all these like big like letting go of like success and failure. But it just like really hit me hard, because I was like people were like so moved by it, and like
Mhm.
everybody was like
A lot
sharing.
of energy.
Yeah, and I was like, I missed it, like it was like
Mhm.
very like "Arr."
Yeah.
Anyway, but just saying, like, I don't know
Makes sense. Yeah. Get it out for sure.
that I guess some of what you've been saying has just been like helping me clear out that density, because I processed it, and I was like, I was like that there was a like something to let go of
Mhm.
finally there.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
with that whole cycle that's been like repeating like every April.
Yeah. Well,
um
that is what the woman in the Quantum Businessman, like their Eclipse series, she was saying that. She was like, April is that 7-year
yeah,
mark. So it's like the birth started happening in April of 2017 and then April 2024. Now we're starting this new. So it feels very much like April is a new, and that resonates for me too, especially with the zodiacal new year starting with the Aries equinox, which yes is in March, but like really April is Aries season, for the most part. And so it really feels like the new year starts then.
yeah,
Then what are my words?
yeah, and it's just been always this like trigger of things having to happen at a certain time, or missing out, and it's just like it doesn't matter when it happens,
Hmm.
like, and
Yeah.
the this
Lemurian time. It takes the time it takes. It's
yeah,
fine. Which is
and
still
yeah,
hard for me to grasp.
and it's okay to keep going, like um there's an interesting thing with the spiritual journey where there's, because I'm a straddler, it's like usually like not just one path for me. So I know there's like that path where you just like literally go with the flow, and if you encounter resistance, you just go, like you follow the, you let the resistance like show you where to flow, and you just
Mhm.
completely surrender and go with the flow. And so knowing that that was a totally valid path of spirituality has been challenging for me when I encounter resistance, to know if it's a sign to let go of something or to keep trying.
Yeah.
And I've been on this thing specifically with like expressing my art and sharing my art and all that whole journey, where it's been a lot of not, it's like there's been a mixture of having to go with the flow and surrender, but also having to just keep trying when you fail
Yeah.
and not give up, because, and like having that option seem valid to me, because I always had this other, like, again, this is very 8D where you're getting all the perspectives at once. I had this other perspective in my head where it's like, well, if it was meant to flow, it would be flowing. And if I
Yeah.
just keep like hitting this wall, then I should just like try something else, and like let go, be like, okay, let go of that. Um, and being on this journey where you don't give up and you don't give up. I've been getting so many messages of that simultaneously, which is like, just don't give up, just keep trying. And like, it's really like a journey related to like not letting fear of failure like psych you out of things, and not like getting psyched out and blah blah blah. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Guess I was supposed to talk
Absolutely.
about that too, but it's
Awesome.
been a big one for this year. And
I know, right?
oh,
It really is. It's just like everything is getting so obvious. And that's what, especially this Aleph symbol in the sky, like the A or whatever, it just really felt like stepping into our own, because that solar eclipse was in Aries. It's like the I am of the zodiac, like, you know, discovering who you are, who we are as a collective, like what do we want, like that kind of thing. And there was something else I was going to say about that, and I kind of lost it. So that's cool. I guess I wasn't supposed to say it. What was I saying?
the-
I lost it. That's okay. Whatever. Wasn't supposed to say it.
um,
Damn it.
I I had another epiphany that is, I think, supposed to come out in this episode too.
Okay.
Okay, so when it comes to the electric forms of destruction versus the magnetic forms of destruction, okay,
Here
I'm
we
gonna
go.
go back to like cosmic neutrality again. That guides me. So we're like literally we are everything. So when you think about um the time when it was just um like the Big Bang happening, or that point in the universe, and a bunch of like energies, and that was our consciousness as well. And so it expressed itself, and it continues to express itself through things like a Big Bang or a black hole, as like the magnetic versus the electric, uh forms of creation and destruction. And then now we've developed these stories around them, and we refer to them as like masculine and feminine principle energy principles. And we hold a lot of judgment collectively for like both of them in different ways. But for me, I think because I've had a very like a lot of lifetimes as a man, I don't know, in my journey it's just been easier for me to like find acceptance and peace with the more electric forms of destructive energy, where you can see it, they're visible, like you can see like, oh, I did this thing and it was destructive. And to like have like a sense of like inner safety around it. But there's been this aspect of like the magnetic, where you call things in so they just happen. So that's like disease, illness, that form of destruction, where it still feels really challenging for me to talk about it because it's like we don't see it's like the cause and the effect aren't as visible to us.
Right.
I have that fear that people are going to get like really angry and be like, oh, you're blaming, like if somebody's sick, they're to blame for being sick or whatever, or like whatever. It's like,
Be a
no,
heretic,
literally
baby.
consciousness is responsible for every single thing, but I still have that baggage of like saying it publicly. Anyway, so there's this energy of that I was like, all these things come up cyclically for me through my period, where I experience a lot of those more like darker feminine energies, things of like inertia, despair, those kinds of things. And one of them was this it's like this energy that I feel is very present right now, where everybody is so a large population segment of the population is so upset about where we're at as a species, that we feel that we're so mad and we're so upset, we're so full of grief and like whatever, and feel so powerless, that we're just like, we all deserve to die. And they're like, whoa, what'd you see?
There is a stink bug. Okay, I don't know if anybody knows stink bugs, but they like fly very little, at least in my experience. They'll fall off and they'll kind of fly back up, and it's a quick buzz and then it's done. There has been a stink bug flying around for, I swear to fuck, 10 minutes. It's not, but I'm just trying to find the guy because I'm like, how are you still in the air? And it just started as you were talking. So continue, but it was just very weird. It's so loud. It feels like a fucking motor.
Oh,
I don't even know where he is. Anyway, the feminine, the disease and the feminine, and yes,
of like collectively calling in, it's like we should just all die. So I've been feeling that presence in the collective of like just calling in, like we should all go extinct because we don't deserve to live, because we fucked up so badly. We deserve to like learn our karmic lesson through a big mass ascension. Like fuck us all. That energy.
Yeah.
And I just suddenly was able to have a more zoomed out perspective on it, because even though I've been able to have like compassion for it and stuff, I was still kind of feeling
It's rough.
sort of triggered by it.
Totally.
Of
totally.
like it's so powerful and like potent to be exposed to. And then I was like, oh, I think that is just a way that we're calling it, that energy. I was able to see it more neutrally finally. And I was like, that's just a way for us to call in this collective ego death. So we're like calling it in because we know we're going through a big change and we know something's happening. And so we're like feeling this thing of like this despairing kind of self-hatred of like, let's just
That's awesome.
But it's actually just the knowledge that's coming into us and it's being filtered through, that we are going to have a huge collective ego death and evolution, and we're going to become kind of unrecognizable to our current selves. So it's all of that anyway. So that was just really helpful for me to be able to see it from that more neutral place where I was like, oh, it's like a lot of these messages come through to us and then our wires get crossed, and as they pass us through our human filter and we like interpret them as something else. And it's like, this is just this very potent death, change, transformation, evolution, and energy coming in.
Okay, that helps me a lot, because I was more just like, I was trying to be, I felt compassionate toward it. I was like, okay, it's a valid viewpoint, but I couldn't be.
I mean, it's like, it's not also just a trauma response like that. That's true as well. But like in this more zoomed out perspective, it's just coming in to help that. Like, we're just like at that level of being like done with what we're doing currently and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, I love that. That was really helpful.
It made that energy feel, I guess, a little bit more safe and tolerable for me to experience, which is why I guess I have to talk about it.
It helped me to hear it.
A lot.
Yeah, we did. There was a lot of energy moving through this whole time we've been talking. I was just like, at times I was like almost hangry. I was like, I need food now. And then like I would be like, I'm so sleepy. I don't know what was going. Stuff was moving through.
I have been having a thing. Anyway, I don't know if it's a Kundalini thing. It's ever since it started with my first or second session with the sound thing, where I suddenly was like warm all through my body. And then I've been having it since. And then I was like, part of me, I was like, is this like perimenopause or?
Yeah, I have those thoughts too.
But it was like so connected to the therapy, like that it just feels like it might be more of like a nervous system readjustment. But anyway, I've been having like real temperature stuff going on in my body.
Yeah, I was having that last week.
This episode.
This episode, that's where you're feeling. Yeah, I was having that when I was at acupuncture. I was sweating when I was like, whoa, and I wasn't literally sweating, but I also kind of was. And I knew I would cool down. So I brought like a scarf and blanket and stuff. And so I went super cold like I usually do. I feel like I go to different dimensions and shit. But like, yeah, I was, whoo. And he was doing a treatment based on like, he was calling it the junk closet, or like the closet where you store all the junk. And I call it the junk drawer, just like anything you're not wanting to deal with or looking at, or whatever, we kind of store it in our hips or our pelvic floor, like, wherever, whatever treatment he was doing. And I was like, Apparently was holding on to a lot. And it's this identity that is happening. It's dying with this solar eclipse right now. That's what I was holding on to. I mean, for the most part. I mean, there's other little things that are kind of coming up or whatever, but it's all related to the old person that I used to be. And it was interesting because I was talking to my sister last night, which I don't normally do. We just don't talk very much at all. We're just busy or, whatever. And I specifically was like, I feel like I'm supposed to talk to you. Do you have a second? I like reached out, which I normally just don't do. And we were talking about the underworld. Like I was finally going into things like shedding old identities and old thought patterns or beliefs or, old stories, like that kind of thing. And I was like, one of my rebirth days is Hecate Day because the trash goddess of the underworld is like showing me, because that's where I live and a lot of time or part of the year. And my sister was like, you're like Persephone. And I was like, yeah, all those goddesses down there are like, we love your trash. It literally is the fertilizer for new growth and all this stuff. And my sister was like, oh my gosh, as you were talking, I was thinking that like it felt like fertilizer, whatever. And I was like, yeah. So it's just really cool to like to feel like I have a safe place to drop the old versions of me where they're going to be honored and like, given new life in the way that like I'm getting new life by their being fertilizer for my new life. Like it's like a really cool feeling and it brought more safety into my body, feeling like it's okay to die. It's safe to die. Like, and I know that because I've had so many deaths and like I have so much death energy and like I know death already feels safe or whatever. But like there's new layers to that because there are still parts of me that were afraid of dying, clearly, or like this wouldn't be painful. And that's okay that it's painful because it was fun to learn through pain, et cetera, et cetera. But like it just felt really nice to have a conversation about the underworld being like this really cool, safe, amazing, like celebratory, genuine, loving place to drop off
That's
old
awesome.
identities. Yeah. So
That's really
oh, that's what I wanted to say one more thing, and this will be it. But like the nodal axis that we're about to move into. So right now it's in Aries and Libra. The nodes move backwards through the zodiac. So the next sign is going to be Pisces and Virgo. And so what I was saying at the beginning of this, like kind of my rebirth day, like whatever the fuck, because that's going to be in my first and seventh houses. But anyway, moving, that's me personally. But Pisces and Virgo eclipse axis, nodal axis. So it's about 18 months and it'll probably, I think it starts sometime in January, maybe something like that. Anyway, once it moves into Pisces and Virgo, it really does feel like that dream Pisces planning, like make a plan to put it into action Virgo and like make it a reality and all that. It's like a really, I mean, yes, I'm biased because I have major heavy emphasis in my own chart on the Pisces Virgo axis. So like it's very familiar energy to me, but like it feels like for the collective, moving into those things where you're like you've had this dream about what you want the future to look like or be or what you want to do or blah blah blah, or maybe you don't know yet because I have like some ideas but I feel like I'm not super clear, which is kind of part of the frustration, et cetera, et cetera. It feels like that's going to be really blown open a whole lot more
Oh,
in this next like year and a
amazing.
half or so through 20 or like up until about 2027, which is when the new programming starts, when the human design new chapter thing starts. Like 2027 is a huge year programming wise and like major shift in the collective. So it's like, and that's why this eclipse that happened in Pisces, sort of like on the 17th, which is like 17 for me is like the fear avatar. And I was like coming out of that fear avatar and moving into like, it's just wild how this stuff happens. Like my birthday is the 18th. So it kind of feels like that new energy that anyway. So it's like, it feels like we're finally being moved into positions where we're going to be able to practice being these new selves in real tangible ways that feel like they're bringing in the new chapter. I've always said that 2025 feels like the start of the Renaissance. It's like you don't know it till after it happens because you're kind of like looking back historically or whatever, but like there's so much fresh energy moving in these next 2025 2026. It's just like whoa, shit's going to start. And so the Pisces eclipse that just happened on the 17th, it was like that door started to open for me where it was like there's a possible new job. I'm not sure yet what the thing is, but it would move me into if this is really for me, like it feels like it is, I would be moved into a place of like very visible high authority and in a small organization. But like anyway, I don't want to go into too much into it because I like just it's so new and kind of weird and we're still like eclipse season already feels kind of like it's unknown, but it's known, but it's just like, just surrender, like, fuck it, it's going to happen because it's fated events and all that stuff. So it's just an interesting interesting glimmer of an open doorway. And so hopefully other people are maybe feeling this too, but it'll be the dream coming into reality in big ways. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
How are you feeling?
I think that's
Any
a good
more?
place to
Yeah.
leave it off for there.
Yep.
Stay tuned, guys.
You're safe.
Look out, you're safe. Look out for our lives on TikTok, I guess, or eventually. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll catch
Yeah.
you next time. Feel free to give us a nice review wherever you listen to us.
That'd be awesome.
All right. So long, space kitties. Talk soon.
Bye.
Whoops.